being, your vast experience over the years in your role, what do you see a distinction, because what I'm hearing from both sides, do you see a distinction between book banning and restricting access to pornography for minors? Like, is there a line that you identified in your professional role that you recognize there's a difference?
In my professional role, there is no pornography for minors in school libraries, so there is no need to restrict it. Book restrictions are, however, a form of censorship. A library exists for independent inquiry and unfettered access to materials. When restrictions, artificial restrictions are imposed, that is a form of censorship, and there's previous court cases to demonstrate that. Cedarville versus Counts, for example, is one that you can take a look at.
So to be clear, you feel that, for instance, age restrictions on any type of sexual content in a book is censorship. There should be no age restrictions. There should be no restrictions, is what I'm hearing. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Age restrictions in a public library?
A school library.
School library, the content in a school library is selected for to be in conformance with the curriculum, student interest, student needs, and student developmental level. By definition, by nature, by existence in the library, the content is there for that developmental level.
Okay. Just so I can also reference a court decision, Island Tree School District versus Pico 457 U.S. 853 in 1982 to justify a librarian's right to cultivate books. Might I add, the U.S. Supreme Court decision was not binding and still permitted the removal of books if the books were pervasively vulgar or obscene. So I just like that.
Right, and I'd like to come back and talk to you about the idea of obscenity. That is a definition that can be determined only by a judge and jury. Your personal opinion about obscenity does not make it so.
Thank you for sharing. I believe a penis isn't appropriate for 5th grade, but thank you. We can talk offline. Thank you. These amendments, actually, that we're about to vote on are actually, one of the saving graces that let many of us come back to it and look at some of the merits of the bill, returning control to the local school board. What I heard today, and I hope that this is somewhat addressed as we move forward, is that book banning and restricting access to pornography for minors are fundamentally different issues, each with distinct objectives and implications. So what I liken it to, as a former English teacher who, by the way, wrote curriculum for multiple schools and was charged with proposing books for a novel-based curriculum with each group, I was charged with doing that. And there is a fundamental difference, and I hope we all can agree, between The Picture of Dorian Gray, which is a book we know that has been challenged for content and alluding to different concepts in the book, and 50 Shades of Grey. So if we have anyone or an esteemed librarian in this room who doesn't know the difference, I'm glad to provide her with that reference if she's ever asking what the difference is between pornography and book banning. The nature of the content. So if you are going to ban a book, books encompass a vast array of topics and genres. We've heard from so many people today who discussed, I want to see myself reflected. I feel like it should be more inclusive. We had different nationalities, we have had different ideologies, gender, so on and so forth, all these issues today. And I don't see any of the opposition opposing that. What I see is all roads lead back to the distinction between obscenity and vulgarity, for which there is a law in the state of New Jersey against, versus book banning. I did not hear anybody raising the flag for book banning with fire and brimstone and hell and pitchforks. I did not see that today. Also, it is very smug to say that it's manufactured outrage that people don't want their children exposed at a young age to sex toys, to sex acts, to graphic descriptions of. I don't understand. In order for us to go anywhere with this discussion, we do have to be open-minded. We do have to be honest and have an honest exchange of ideas. Assemblywoman Magoli, I appreciated what you said when you explained the process in your school, but there is a need for a process because not every school runs it like that, right? I mean, it can be the Wild West to some degree, and that's why we're having these issues. But, you know, we cannot forget the fact that we have laws in the state of New Jersey that protect minors from obscenity, just very much like, and I'm going to give you one more example of what I liken it to. Smoking for minors is illegal. I'm not talking about the wacky weed, I'm talking about cigarettes, because the other is as well. Perfectly legal for adults to smoke cigarettes. Pornography. We have laws that protect children against pornography. Perfectly legal for adults. My school library should not be handing out Marlboro Reds, nor should they be handing out pornography to students. So I look at it the entirely opposite way. The entirely opposite way of saying, don't try to parent you can tell your child, to not take out that book, but don't restrict my child from doing that. That's a nonsensical argument. It's a false equivalency. And it is because there's laws against that to begin with. It's not a question of, oh, you just don't like that, maybe you're prudish. No, it's illegal. And it's illegal for a reason. So please, can we stop to have an honest conversation? Can we please stop conflating pornography with book banning? They are 100% not the same, and I'm losing my patience with it. By way of the bill's sponsor, I appreciate the amendments. There's one thing that I do want to suggest that I didn't even hear once today, and that was there is a proposal for the review committee on appeal to perhaps include a student on that committee as well, if it's appropriate. And I'm really nervous about who deems that being appropriate, right? Because what I would not want is a student to be put on a review committee to say, do you think this is pornography? To a 16-year-old might not be the best choice. So I think that needs a second look, if possible, to have that discussion. I think that's incredibly important. I appreciate the conversation today, the robust conversation. I am looking forward to further amendments in its current form. I cannot get behind a bill that still allows immunity. We know full well that there is sexual abuse in schools across this country. We know this. I'm an educator. We have many educators up here. We are not demonizing the profession, just like we don't demonize any other profession. But to say that there could never be an employee that fits under that umbrella of what a media specialist is that has nefarious intentions is just silly. Let's call it for what it is. So I think it should be done on a case-by-case basis. I don't think we have a carve-out or a protection against pornography distribution for one class of employees. I think that's a slippery slope. We all just got the review that said that the Pass the Trash law is not being implemented with fidelity in all schools, and that was an independent review that was done, and that gave me pause as an educator. I don't think this body needs to put forward another thing that would further erode public trust and openness. So for that reason, I vote no on this bill in its current form.